This is a series called Tech in 10, which is aimed at providing you with a very brief understanding of the technology that surrounds us today and that we use more and more in our daily lives. Part 1 aims to give you a basic understanding of computer hardware. Today, in our daily lives, computers are everywhere: desktops, laptops, tablets, and even mobile smartphones are examples of computers. A computer system consists of two elements in order to be able to operate: hardware and software. Let's focus on hardware. Hardware is the term given to the physical components which make up the computer system, and can be split into internal and external components. Internal components sit inside the computer and comprise such things as the system board, or motherboard, CPU, or central processing unit, memory, and disk drives. External hardware comprises the likes of the keyboard, mouse, and display screen, sometimes called peripherals. So let's look at some of the internal components in more detail. Although in reality a computer has a lot of components, in its most simplistic form, there could be said to be four major internal components. These are the main system board, the CPU, I/O, or input-output ports, and storage in the form of memory or hard disk drives. If we liken this to our bodies, the system board is like the nervous system, the CPU is the brain, hard disks are the memory, and the I/O ports are the senses. The system board, or motherboard as it is sometimes known, is something like the foundations of a building. It houses the main components and provides the internal communication channels via its circuitry so that the various components can talk to each other. Let's talk about each of the major components to understand a little better what they do.
There are many components on a system or motherboard, and this image will give you some idea of its complexity, and indicate some of the major ones. This is a typical system board with some of the major components highlighted. Amongst these are the various I/O ports, which allow the computer to communicate with the outside world. Input ports allow outside devices to communicate with the computer, and output ports allow the computer to communicate with other computers or devices. These I/O ports act like the doorways into and out of the computer. Examples of I/O ports are connections for the mouse, network, USB, VGA display, keyboard, sound, and printer. Of these, the mouse and keyboard would be input ports. The VGA display, and sound and printer, if there was one connected, would be output ports, and many others can be both input and output ports, such as the network and USB ports, as the computer can both receive and transmit information via those ports. The CPU is the brain of the computer and performs operations, such as calculations, actions, and running programs. CPUs are present in all types of devices ranging from computers and laptops, to smartphones, tablets, and smart TVs. The small and usually square chip is placed onto the device's motherboard, and interacts with the other hardware to operate the computer. Modern CPUs are enormously complex and contain vast numbers of tiny transistors. As its name implies, the CPU is a processor, and is described mainly in terms of speed, how fast it can process instructions. Processor speed is the number of cycles per second at which the CPU operates and is able to process information, and is described in megahertz. Data processing capability is described in bits. Early processors were 8-bit, then 16-bit, then 32 and now 64. More about bits in later courses. RAM, random access memory. RAM comes in many shapes and forms depending on the type of system board it is installed in. The amount of RAM in a device determines how much memory the operating system and application programs can use. RAM is temporary storage and is considered volatile memory since it only stores data while a device is turned on. When the device is powered down, data stored in the RAM is erased. The hard disk drive provides permanent storage of data for the computer system. These come in different sizes and storage capacities. Most common today is a 3.5-inch drive. A hard disk drive usually has a number of platters and read-write heads, although solid-state drives are growing in popularity. A solid-state drive is like permanent memory and has no moving parts. The hard disk drive is separate from the system board and connects to it via a special cable, and is mounted separately in the computer case. All the components we described, and many others, are fitted into a case which provides the electrical power for them to operate. This case is what we see and know as a PC, laptop, tablet or mobile phone. So to summarize, we have learned something of the basic components of a computer system. Today, tablets, smartphones, smart TVs, laptops and desktop computers share basically the same architecture, and operate in the same manner. They have hardware, an operating system, and applications. Many thanks for watching, and please continue to take the short quiz that follows. Test your knowledge. Question 1. We said that a computer consists of two elements in order to operate. These are hardware and what? Answer: software. A computer needs hardware and software in order to be able to operate. Question 2. What are the four major hardware components of a computer system? Answer: the four major hardware components are the system or motherboard, CPU, I/O ports and storage in the form of RAM or hard disk drives. Question 3. What are the four basic functions of a computer? Answer: input, storage, processing and output. Question 4. What are some examples of I/O ports? Answer: connections for mouse, keyboard, network, sound and USB. Thank you for taking the time to do this mini course, and we sincerely hope it has helped you to understand the basic architecture of a computer. Other courses will cover specific subjects in more detail. Until next time, goodbye for now.